Hey fam, what's good? What's good? I hope this show well and keeping safe. Welcome to another one. So now we will be covering supply and demand. Okay, so supply and demand. This is a few candlestick pattern which change market structure from bullish to bearish, right? From bearish to bullish as well. This pattern serves as an added confluence to your trading, right? Keep that in mind. These actual patterns are changing market structure. Okay, so now let's look at how a supply and demand area look like. Now let's look at a supply area. Right now, you guys need to keep in mind that this whole region is a zone, right? This is one big zone. Now, can you guys see, right? An area of supply, this is always above price. Okay, this will basically be your roof. This is your area of quote unquote resistance, right? So what do you want to see at your areas of resistance? This is where you want to look for some lovely short opportunities, right? You want to see the market go towards the downside. Now, our supply area over here, as you guys can see, that price is pushing towards the upside, right? Now, what you want to find yourself doing is literally identify the odd candle with this uptrend over here. And this odd candle is literally this bear candle, as you guys are seeing right over here, right? Now, this bear candle over here, that will literally be a correction on the lower time frame, right? So with us breaking below this candle with this body, this simply means that we are changing market structure, right? That is what an area of supply is. Now, look at this one bear candle, right? This wick, the low of the wick, right, of this bear candle, that will be your neckline. That will be the area you are going to put your eye on where you want to see price basically break out from, right? So as you guys can see with this huge candle thrown towards the downside over here, this bear candle, right, the moment we find ourselves closing below this neckline right over there, this is when we change market structure. Now, like I made mention, every pattern has an actual neckline, right? The neckline is simply just a turning point to where you want to see price head into, right? And over here, it will literally be this box. Right now, how do you box out this little box right there, right? You are going to box out this box from the wick of this odd candle, the bear candle, right? That low right there, to the highest wick you see, right? And the highest wick are basically inside this actual example, the highest wick will basically be this region right there. So this whole area is now serving as a zone for you to basically take price short, right? So all you're going to find yourself doing is literally just wait for price to pull back inside the zone. And this is where you can find yourself looking for some lovely short opportunities. Right now, keep in mind, price can literally come to the tip of this box and just shift towards the downside, or it can come to the middle of the box and have an actual shift towards the downside. Price can literally come to the tip of this box and then have an actual shift back towards the downside as well, right? So like I made mention, this whole area is a zone where price can find itself pulling back into, right? Now, when will this area be invalid? This will only be invalid if price is going to find itself pushing all the way up and have a closure above the box, right? And it needs to be a closure with a body, right? Not a wick, a closure with a body. Okay, so now let's look at the criteria of an area of supply. Okay, so this formation will be found in your areas of resistance, right? So once price is tapping inside an area of resistance, right, this pattern will normally find itself occurring. You need to wait for the body of the bearish candle to close below the wick, right? And that area will basically be your neckline, which is this area over here, right? The bear candle will be this one. You need to wait for this candle to close, not with a wick, with a body, right? The body needs to close below to activate this area of supply for you. What are you going to do next? Right? Wait for the retest back into the neckline and you sell immediately, right? So once price is basically coming all the way towards the upside inside your zone, this is basically when you're going to find yourself looking for some lovely short opportunities, right? If price would close above the box, you close all your entries. Make sure that you are using proper money management, right? So your stops will literally be above the actual box right there, right? And your shorts will literally come from this zone right over here. So this whole area is serving as a drawdown region. Now you guys need to keep in mind, just because you are seeing an actual pattern on your actual charts does not mean that price will respect it, right? So you always need to use money management, right? You're not going to find yourself barcoding price inside the zone, and then once price is closing above this actual area, right, now you find yourself crying. No, right? No, always calculate your trade and be responsible when it comes down to, you know what, how much you have inside your account. Okay, so that is literally an area of supply. Let's look at an area of demand. Let's look at the criteria, right? So this formation will be formed in our areas of support, right, below price. So with this being below price, what do we want to see in areas of support? We want to look for lovely buying opportunities, right? So areas of demand, this is areas where you want to look for nice buying opportunities, right? You need to wait for the body of the bullish candle to close above the neckline, right? So as you guys can see over here, the sketch right there, right? You need to wait for this candle to close above this wick right over there, right? How are you going to box it out? This odd candle, which you see over there, right? That odd candle right there will basically be the area where you're going to get your box out, right? The high of the box and the low of the box will be your lowest wicks, which you are seeing right over there, right? You wait for the retest back into the neckline and you buy immediately. Like I made mention, this is a whole zone. This box over here is a drawdown area, right? So you're going to wait for price to pull back. If you want to go long right there, you go long. Where's your stops? Your stops is going to be below your actual box, right? If price would have to close below your box, right, not above, below your actual box, you close your entries, right? So if price would have to find itself closing below this area right over here, right, this simply means that your trade is now invalid and the closure needs to be a body, right, not a wick. So you can find these patterns on any time frame whatsoever, right? And once again, please do make sure that you are using proper money management when it comes down to your areas of supply and demand. So now let's step into the charts and let me show you guys an example or two. Okay, so let's look at an area of supply. Right now, Diego, why is it that throughout 2022 we found ourselves having a lovely dip? Right, simply because of the following. Check this out. Can you guys see with this momentum towards the upside, the odd candle? Which one is that? This beautiful bear candle. Right, find yourself boxing out your area from the low of that wick to the high, which is that region right there, right? Can you guys see how we find ourselves having a closure below, right? This is basically activating our area of supply, right? So if price found itself doing something like this, can you guys see that we have a wick below, right? You don't want to see a wick closing below. You want to see the body being closing below, right? So this area over here will not be considered as an area of supply, but the moment price found itself having a closure below this area, just like that right there, right, this is when we find ourselves activating this area of supply. So all we're going to do next is literally just wait for price to have a tap so that we can find ourselves looking for some lovely shorts on this beautiful pair called the Nasdaq. Right there, you guys can see that, you know what, we had the tap inside our area of supply, right? So this is where your trade is basically being activated. And there you guys can see from there onwards, you know what, we had a beautiful shift towards the downside, right? And that right there is your area of supply. Let's look at another example. Okay, boom. So now let's look at this example over here, right, Diego, why is it that price is currently having a shift towards the downside? Simply because of the following, right? This area basically changed market structure, right? What area is it? It's an area of supply, right? Can you guys see with this momentum towards the upside? Which one is the odd candle? This beautiful bear candle right there. Find yourself boxing out this bear candle just like that, from the low all the way to your nearest, well, to your highest wick, which is currently that region right there. So can you guys see? This is how our area of supply is looking like. Right, so all we are waiting for is a tap inside this area for a lovely shift back towards the downside. There you would have been triggered inside your trade, right? And can you guys see how we had a lovely shift from that area onwards, right? And what did price find itself doing? Price literally came and found some large liquidity and had a further shift back towards the downside, right? And that is how you will identify your areas of supply. Now let's look at an area of demand. Can you guys see over here, right? This momentum towards the downside. Which one is the odd candle? The odd candle is literally this bull candle right there. Find yourself boxing it out, right? Just like that. Boom. Can you guys see that we found ourselves having a closure above right there? But did we come back for the retest though? No, we haven't, right? No, we haven't. Did this candle come back? No, we haven't. Did that one come back? No, we haven't, right? So just because you are seeing an actual area of demand, an area of supply, does not mean price will immediately come back to that region, right? But price will find itself come back to this region eventually, right? And then find itself having some sort of an actual reaction from it. So if I can just extend price a little bit to the right, we can see that price finally came back into our area of demand. And look at that. We had a lovely shift towards the upside. And this is literally how you could have found yourself catching, you know what, the beautiful long opportunity over the course of 2020, right? So that is an area of demand. Let's look at another area of demand. Okay, cool. So now let's look at recent price. This is literally today's price, right? Today is the 26th of the 10th month, 2023, right? So look at this nice momentum towards the downside. Which one is the odd candle? Literally this green candle right there. Find yourself boxing it out just like that. So this area is now an area of demand, right? So since we had a closure above, all we want to see is price have some sort of a dip for a nice, you know what, continuation move back towards the upside. There you guys can see that we had the actual dip, right? You are inside your actual trade right there. You are being patient, and you know what? You should be in some nice profits. You know what? If you find yourself taking price from this area of demand right there. Back to our presentation, right? I want you guys to take note of the following. Okay, so this pattern is not your holy grail. Guys, listen, there's no such thing as a holy grail. Okay, as mentioned, this is an added confluence to your trading. So with everything that you are on, well, with everything you know inside the market, right, this is just something you're going to add to it to navigate you on where you want to see price heading to, etc. Right? Price will not always respect the neckline immediately. If price did not test the neckline, the area will serve as a magnet for price to pull back into, right? So simply saying that, you know what, if price is not coming back to the area you want it to come back to, you know what, eventually price will find itself magnetuding back to that area right there. Keep that in mind. Price will never leave an area untested, okay? Price will never leave an area untested. Before entering a trade, you need to make sure you know where you are inside the market, okay? You're not just going to find yourself entering price based off any supply area and any demand area. You need to make sure that you are at an area of resistance when it comes down to an area of supply for you to look for some lovely shorts, right? With your areas of demand, you need to make sure that you are inside an area of support, right? So with you being in an area of support, what are you looking out for? You are looking out for buying opportunities. So once you are seeing your pattern, right, this is when you're going to find yourself executing your trade. Okay, target your nearest areas of support or resistance, right? Your nearest magnets will literally be your nearest area of support or resistance, or simply, you know what, if you are taking price from one area of, let's say, a demand area, right, you're going to take it to the next supply area, right? Or a supply area to a demand area, right? Magnet to magnet, or you can just simply find yourself targeting your highs or your lows, depending on where you find yourself, you know what, executing price from. And most importantly, always use money management, right? So if your stop loss get hit, right, you are not going to cry about it, because you need to know that, you know what, there's no such thing as 100% win rate. Trading is all about probability, and you need to find yourself calculating your trade, right? Use all your confluences and literally use that as your edge to navigate the market, right? And just because you have everything in place does not mean price will respect the area, right? So always prepare for worst case scenarios, right? But these actual areas are quite crucial and quite decent areas to where you can find yourself executing price, right? And that's literally it when it comes down to supply and demand. So I will see you guys in the next slide. I'm out.